John, I'm sat here on the technology show thinking about the technological disruption that has happened to advertising. Is this in response to that? Is this to take on Alphabet, Meta, and claw back more of that global revenue?
Well, it is. Technology does play a role in this, and both Philippe and I have focused on that in our conversations over the course of the last year. When you cut through quite a bit of what we're discussing, if you look at our industry, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the barrier to entry was very low. It was, you just had to be a brilliant person, right? With a great
Just a bit of brilliance.
Yeah, with a great idea. Now, in order to properly service clients in this new era, it's key to have those very, very bright, very talented people, but it's incumbent upon us to enable them with the best tech and data that we possibly can for them to garner the insights, the information at scale so they can react to the environment as they need. And we've each been on that journey, I guess, as all of our competitors have as well. From an Omnicom point of view, we've made great strides with the creation of Omni and earlier in the year when we acquired Flywheel, the commerce data that we've been able to put together. And that's progresses, and today we're working even betaing all the generative AI possibilities to create tools for our folks. Philippe on the other side can talk to it as well because he's at a very strong bench.
Sure. I mean, I think to John's point, technology is playing so much more important a role in our sector, and that's because for our clients, the consumers they need to reach expect a high degree of personalization in the messaging they get and a high degree of engagement in the experiences we deliver.
Yeah.
So to John's point, he brought Flywheel into the family. It's a company that has this quite distinctive ability to understand everything that's happening in the digital retail ecosystem down to the individual transaction level. And then for us, Acxiom, as John said, is likely the largest consumer database outside of the walled gardens. So if you put those two together, and if we co-invest in generative AI, we're very, very strongly positioned, we believe, to help our clients navigate this tech-enabled world.
How does it strip out costs? You clearly identified opportunities for $750 million in annual cost savings, but the talent, when it comes to generative AI, is expensive. So Philippe, how do you strip out those costs?
Well, I think John's been really clear, and I think we are fully in agreement a year in, that it's about enabling the folks who interact with the clients, those brilliant people, giving them more tools. There are ways in which we're not going to invest more than once, and we are going to look at infrastructure that is perhaps legacy infrastructure in businesses like ours. So there is a meaningful opportunity there to put the money against the future.
John, some of the concern may be being priced in at the moment because as combined market capitalizations, they're now lower than they were on Friday. People trying to digest how this deal works. Citi, Bernstein saying the potential for revenue dyssynergy, rival agencies stealing accounts, talent. How do you make sure that people stay on board with you?
Sure. We've always been the place for the best talented people to come to. Naturally, there's churn in everybody's business every year. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been through this movie once before, but did it badly and didn't complete it 10 years ago. This one is a lot more thoughtful.
You're referring to the Publicis deal back in 2014.
Yes. But clients who listen to us and see the capabilities that we've developed between us already, the power of what we're going to be able to continually bring to the marketplace, the changes in the focus and the single point of entry and investment that we're going to make to enable that talent to succeed. I'm not nearly as concerned as the naysayers are looking for some way to knock on the deal, that we may be challenged by the odd client or two. I suspect not, because I think the offerings that we have and the response to those clients is at the core of what we've been discussing for the last year. And that's been first and foremost. So we've been focused on what is this going to mean for our clients? What is this going to mean for our talent? What is it going to mean for us attracting talent going forward? and enabling those people. And most very talented people want to work with and for the very best and brightest and have available to them the most state-of-the-art tools. And that's what we'll be providing. And progress is every day. I mean, I haven't even focused in on what the advances that I'm very familiar with Sarah, but what was going on this morning.
OpenAI, sorry, yeah.
And that has a positive impact used as a tool made available to our knowledge workers.
Yeah.
And so others will try, some will succeed, but we'll wind up at the end of the day with the very best talent in the industry, I think, as we always have.
And Philippe, that talent wants to be enabled with the latest and greatest tools.
Absolutely.
John was, though, talking about how the barriers for entry were very low and now they've got higher. But generative AI makes the barrier to entry for new upstarts incredibly low. How, do you not believe in that?
I'm not sure that I would agree with that, because ultimately what you have to have is connectivity to a very, very broad range of capabilities. And so I think that if you're thinking about it in a very reductive sense and you're saying, well, anybody can create a piece of content, sure. But the reality is that unless that content is connected to a very sophisticated platform with a great deal of technology and a lot of data, then fundamentally it's not really very useful to the clients who need accountability, need outcomes, and are very sophisticated themselves.
We are, of course, speaking with Philippe Krakowsky of Interpublic Group and John Wren of Omnicom. And John, going back to ultimately this pie that at the moment is being redistributed among new players, it's not just Meta and Alphabet. I mean, ByteDance is in there taking space, Amazon as well. Do you think ultimately the agencies, the 4 that become 3, will own as much as the $1 trillion of the market that it does it today, or will that continue to erode?
Well, many of these players have been competitors of ours now for quite a while. I mean, so it's not new. Some of the tools, some of the capabilities that are being created today, on one hand, would be very welcome and usable by smaller marketers, but larger marketers, I defer to what Philippe was mentioning a minute ago, are going to have to be a bit, you have to bring brand safety into consideration as you do this. You have to bring in considerations, do you have the right to use your image and your voice in my next commercial, even though it might be a perfect setting for what I'm trying to accomplish. So there are a lot of considerations. Europe is different than the US. China's going to be different than everybody else. So that competitive set has always been out there. We, with the resources that we have, defending ourselves in this environment, have been very successful and will continue to be successful. We'll be more successful now because we'll be more focused and we'll have more resources to respond to things that change.
Things that change are like a new administration, Philippe. And everyone's been saying, what about the regulatory outlook? I mean, if you are, it's global jurisdictions here. How confident are you that this deal actually gets through?
Well, to John's point, it's been a long time in the making. We've been very deliberate. So you can assume that, you know, we took advice as we were heading into this, because to your point, we're going to be looking at a dozen or more jurisdictions in which this will need to clear that hurdle. And we have a high degree of confidence that that's something that we can achieve.
Do you have a high degree of confidence, John, just in your client, in the macro perspective that they currently have? How willing are people to commit to big campaigns in this macro environment, as we do have so much geopolitical uncertainty?
Sure. Clients still wake up in the morning and they're running their businesses and they're running their factories and they have to sell their products. Maybe the nature of what they're advertising or the channel in which they're trying to reach their customer change, but that's what we're best at, and the velocity of that change. And people will do different things to respond to the marketplace differently. I think the change in administration is probably a positive thing. I suspect the new administration is going to be more business friendly than anyone's complained about the existing administration. So I'm not anticipating, and we've been well advised, that we have to go through the process. But there are a lot of competitors out there, so that won't be an issue in the final days. Now, the whole focus is on the flexibility and the agility.
Right.
Even though people who want to tend to look at size and look at the negative aspects of size, we see size as empowering because it'll give us more resource. And what's key is to keep the agility and leave creativity to the talented people that we both have in our employ and are responsible for us both being here today, but enabling them with the best tools, cutting edge, so they can go into the largest advertisers in the world and with great confidence tell them that it's always changing. Nothing, yesterday doesn't exist anymore. It's what's tomorrow, but we're the place to come to.